Hello everyone. In this video, we'll be learning about reproduction, different types of reproduction, and we'll be specifically looking into 2 to 3 types of reproduction. And then in the next few videos, we'll be detailed discussing about the different types of reproductions possible in any organism. So before we start, a very simple question: what is reproduction? As you all know, reproduction means producing new organism from the existing organism of the same species is known as reproduction. And reproduction is very, very important and essential for the survival of any species on this earth. The process of reproduction ensures the continuity of the life of that particular organism on earth. So, what is the basic definition of reproduction? Producing new organisms so as to keep the continuity of the life of that particular organism on earth. So how many types of reproduction do we have? Basically, the reproduction is divided into 2 types. They are asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is further divided into fission. Fission is further divided into binary fission and multiple fission. Fission means in biology breaking up. Binary fission, bi means two. So binary fission means breaking up of the organism into 2 parts. Okay, the next is multiple fission, means dividing of the or breaking up into different forms. The next is budding, spore formation, regeneration, fragmentation, vegetative propagation. We are going to look into all of these types of sexual reproduction one by one. And sexual reproduction it's from unicellular organism and bisexual organism. Okay, so we'll be talking about both. So first we'll start with asexual reproduction, and today in this video we'll be talking about fission, binary fission, multiple fission, okay, regeneration. These are the three, and fragmentation. Okay, sorry, we'll be looking into binary fission, multiple fission, and fragmentation. Only these three. And in the next video, we'll be talking about budding, spore formation, regeneration, and vegetative propagation. Clear? So before we start, what is asexual reproduction? So asexual reproduction is nothing but it's the production again of a new organism, but from a single parent and without the involvement of a sexual cell or a special gamete. Is called as asexual reproduction. So in asexual reproduction, the organism doesn't use this. It will not use the special cell called as gamete. In this type of reproduction, the part of the parent organism actually separates off and it grows into a new individual organism. So only one parent is required for such a type of reproduction. Therefore, it's called as asexual reproduction. Again, a quick look into the type of asexual reproduction: fission, fragmentation, budding, regeneration, spore formation, vegetative propagation. We'll be looking into fission in this video and fragmentation. Okay, so first type of fission, binary fission. As the name suggests, binary means breaking up into 2 parts. Okay, before we go into the theory part, let's look into the binary fission process. As you can see here, this is how amoeba looks under the microscope with a highly magnified electron microscope. When we magnify it, this is how amoeba looks into. Now, if you see here, this is the amoeba, which is of a regular shape, having only one nucleus. Gradually, this nucleus splits into 2 parts, and you can see the cytoplasm also pinching in and dividing into 2 separate sections. It's getting ready for that, and at the end of the day you get 2 cells, right? So when amoeba undergoes binary fission, it ends up giving us 2 daughter cells. Now in binary fission of amoeba, the splitting of the nucleus into 2 parts can start from anywhere. Once this nucleus splits up, automatically the cytoplasm will also start generating into developing in such a way that it can split up into 2 new daughter cells. So as we saw the same way here in the picture, the cytoplasm is splitting up into 2 parts. So if you want to make out where is the nucleus, this is the nucleus of the 2 amoeba new daughter cells, right? So what is happening in amoeba? The splitting of the 2 cells during the division can take place in any plane. Many bacteria and protozoa simply split into two equal halves during the cell division. Similar fashion, the binary fission is also being used by paramecium. Okay, so paramecium body also divides into two equal parts to form two small. Let's look into the binary fission of paramecium, and then we'll come into the understanding of the individual parts, how it divides into two parts to give us two new daughter cells. So let's first look into the, as you can see here, the two cells are splitting up from the cytoplasm. This is the nucleus part. So this is the initial stage when the cytoplasm is pinching into, and then it's gradually pinching to give us two daughter cells. This is the nucleus part of the paramecium cell, correct? So this is how the one paramecium parent divides into two cells. In paramecium, the body divides into two parts to form two smaller paramecium. So as you can see here in the picture, the macronucleus actually first splits into two parts. Gradually, the macronucleus is splitting into two parts, the elongation, that is, it is becoming bigger and bigger. Okay, and the micronucleus is also dividing. Okay, so the micronucleus is also elongated, and this is the micronucleus which is elongated, means becoming lengthier, and the macronucleus is also becoming lengthier. At the same time, there is a pinch that you can see in the cytoplasm. So gradually what happened? There are two individual micronucleus, and this is the macro, and the small dot is the micro. And the other parts of the organelles of the cell is also doubled up. And now the cytoplasm is divided into two parts. So thus we got two daughter cells, right? So paramecium, amoeba, both showed binary fission, correct? But they did it any, amoeba just went about with any plane. Paramecium had a particular way of dividing its body into two new daughter cells. Similarly, Leishmania has a greater degree of organization in its body, because the structure of Leishmania has a whip-like structure that is called as a flagellum. Flagellum means the thin thread-like structure. So Leishmania also reproduces by binary fission, but it does it in a specific plane. So as you can see here, the Leishmania structure has two nucleuses, correct? And it's going to split from here, right? So Leishmania, the splitting of the parent cell during fission takes place in a very definite plane with respect to the flagellum at its end. So if you look into this picture, there is the nucleus and the flagellum is in the upper side. Okay, the nucleus first split, gradually the cytoplasm is pinching in, and there is double flagellum. There you can see two phloems coming out, and gradually the cytoplasm moves inside, right? And it splits into two individual daughter cells. Similarly, if you can see here that there are two phloems, 1 and 2. Okay, so the splitting of the cytoplasm happens through the phloem. So phloem has to be doubled. After the nucleus doubles up, the phloem has to be doubled, and then the cytoplasm splitting starts from the portion where the phloem is present. So in this respect, Leishmania differs from amoeba because it starts from a particular place and in a particular plane. The division starts after the splitting of the nucleus. The next type of fission we are going to talk about is multiple fission. What is multiple fission? Fission means breaking up. Multiple means breaking up into many parts. So as you can see here, this is the picture of plasmodium, which is having one nucleus which splits into two, then becomes 4, 8, and gradually it splits and becomes many multiple daughter cells. So what is the real process of multiple fission? The parent organism actually splits to form many new organisms at the same time. Okay, so in plasmodium, sometimes due to unfavorable conditions, a cyst means a bulgy part, or a protective wall is developed around the cell. The moment the protective wall is developed around the cell, inside the cyst, the nucleus will automatically get the indication that it has to split, because this protective wall is created. So automatically the nucleus will start splitting into several times. It will start splitting several times. Not one or two, it will keep splitting. So in the first, as you can see in the picture, it split double, then 4 times, then 8. So it kept splitting up. So each smaller nuclei will turn out to be the daughter nuclei. So as you can see the microscopic picture of plasmodium, you can make out here the purplish small dot-like structures are nothing but the daughter nuclei. Even the yellowish, the brownish part are daughter nuclei. So these little bits of cytoplasms collect around each daughter nuclei, and thin membranes are also formed around. So the daughter cells are ready with their own individual nucleus and a very thin cytoplasm cover. It's a very thin cytoplasm, little cytoplasm and a thin membrane covering it. When the favorable conditions arrive, the cyst will break up and the daughter cells will be released, and each daughter cell will turn out to be a new organism. So binary fission we saw in amoeba, paramecium, leishmania. Okay, multiple fission is possible in plasmodium. Okay, the next type of reproduction that we're going to see is fragmentation. As the word suggests, fragment. Fragment means break up into small parts. Fragment means parts. Before we go into the theory part, let's look into the fragmentation process happening in Spirochera. This is this picture of the Spirochera, which is also called as the greenish algae. Okay, so this is the highly magnified structure of Spirochera. So let's look into the process of how it splits into smaller fragments. So under the microscope with magnification of 40 times, this is how the Spirochera looks. If you can try to look out, there is this thin transparent lining in between these structures. Okay, these are the fragments of Spirochera. So let's look into the more magnified structure of Spirochera and how it will split up. So when they are magnifying it to 60 times, you can very clearly see these lines. Can you see it? Right? The magnification is 100 times now. Okay, so the individual lining can be seen very clearly. So it's just 1 millimeter ruler, and the magnification is very invisible, like we cannot make out the parts. Now when we are magnifying it to 100 times, it's visible for a better amount of sections of the Spirochera can be seen. So it's a thread-like structure. And now they'll be magnifying it to more precise way. Can you see this? When the magnification is increased to 400 times, can you see these thin lines between the section of the body, longitudinal section of the body? You can see these vertical lines. So this one section is called as the fragment. So in this part, each fragment will break up and they'll develop into new part. So let's see the fragment more closely and a more magnified way. Can you see it? So this is the line. Here it is blackish line. Okay. So these are the fragments which will split up and they'll form a new organism. In the magnified image, we couldn't see the nucleus in each fragment, but in this picture very clearly, each fragment has their own individual nucleus. So these fragments will split up and they'll start developing into a new organism. So first of all, Spirochera is a multicellular organism with relatively very simple body organization. Therefore, it can reproduce asexually. And asexual reproduction works very well in this particular organism. So Spirochera will simply break up into smaller pieces upon maturation, because each piece or each fragment is having their own individual nucleus. And these pieces or fragments will grow into new individuals. Okay. So that is what makes it special, that even being multicellular, it is able to develop asexually and produce its new organism. So today in this video we saw binary fission of amoeba, binary fission of paramecium, binary fission of leishmania, multiple fission of plasmodium, and Spirochera fragmentation. Hope it was clear.